Barely had time to open my car door before my father's voice echoed across the marble lobby, loud enough to turn heads. "Careful, gentlemen," he sneered. "She can't even afford parking here. These penthouses cost millions. She's just sightseeing." Heat crawled up my neck. Every eye in the lobby flicked toward me. Polished shoes, designer handbags, smug faces pretending not to stare. I stood there, clutching my purse, forcing myself to breathe evenly. "Dad," I said quietly, "please don't do this. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin." He laughed, that sharp, cruel sound I'd known my entire life. "Do what? Tell the truth? Look around, Claire. This isn't your world. People here actually work for their money." Valerie, his wife, always wrapped in silk and superiority, snickered behind him. "Oh, Harold, stop. She's just trying to look important. Let her have her little fantasy." Their son, Mason, leaned against the pillar, smirking. "Guess they're letting tourists in now." I could have walked away. I should have. But something inside me, the part that spent years being underestimated, dismissed, humiliated, rose like fire. I stepped forward, meeting my father's eyes. "You've made a career out of mocking me. It must be exhausting, carrying that much insecurity around." His face darkened. "Watch your tone, young lady." Before I could reply, the glass doors slid open behind me. A tall man in a navy suit approached, crisp and confident, holding a sleek tablet. "Miss Carter," he said, voice smooth as silk. "I'm glad you're here. We've just finished the interior updates on your penthouses. Would you like to review both, or shall we start with the one overlooking Central Park?" The entire lobby went silent. My father blinked. "You're what?" The realtor smiled politely. "Her 2 penthouses, sir. She owns both units on the top floor." Valerie's hand froze midair, her diamond bracelet catching the light. Mason's smirk evaporated. My father stammered, You must be mistaken. This is my daughter." "She couldn't possibly." The realtor interrupted gently. "Ms. Claire Carter, owner and managing partner of Skyline Developments. We closed the purchase last month." I turned toward my father, heart steady for the first time in years. "Would you like to come up, Dad? Or is it too expensive to breathe the same air?" He didn't answer. None of them did. As I followed the realtor toward the elevator, I could feel the weight of their silence pressing behind me. For once, it wasn't me shrinking under it. It was them. The door slid shut with a quiet chime. And for the first time in my life, I smiled at the sound of an ending. The elevator hummed softly as it rose, each floor passing like a heartbeat. I stared at my reflection in the glass panels, steady, calm, unrecognizable from the girl who once cried herself to sleep over her father's cruel words. The city lights stretched below, glittering like the very future he said I'd never have. The realtor, Ethan Shaw, cleared his throat lightly. "Your father seemed surprised," he said, tactful but amused. I smiled faintly. He's been surprised my whole life. Just never for the right reasons. When the elevator doors opened, the view nearly stole my breath. Sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, washing over marble floors and glass railings that led to an open balcony. The skyline shimmered like it was bowing to no one but me. "This," Ethan said with a grin, "is the South Unit. The redesign turned out even better than expected. Your taste is impeccable." I ran my hand along the smooth counter, every inch of the penthouse, whispering proof. Proof that all those nights working 2 jobs weren't for nothing. Proof that the girl who'd been called a failure now owned the view people like my father only bragged about renting. As I stood there, memories cut through me like glass, his words echoing over and over. "You'll never make it in real estate. You're too emotional to lead. No one will take you seriously." I'd built an empire out of the pieces he tried to break. Ethan glanced at me. "You did all this yourself, didn't you?" "Every cent," I said. "No investors, no inheritance. Just mistakes, lessons, and one very expensive kind of silence. He smiled softly. The kind that comes when you finally stop explaining yourself. Exactly. A knock echoed from the private elevator entrance. Ethan opened the door and I froze. My father stood there, hands in pockets, jaw tight, pretending he belonged. Behind him, Valerie hovered like a ghost of old wealth, and Mason's smugness had dissolved into awe. Well, Dad said slowly, scanning the room, I'll give you credit. You've done well for yourself. Well, I said, turning to face him, that's what you call 2 penthouses and a business you said would fail? His lips tightened. You've clearly learned something from me after all. I laughed, sharp and bitter.
No, Dad.
I learned what not to become. Valerie shifted uncomfortably. We just wanted to see how you were doing, dear. It's been so long. I cut her off. You wanted to see if the rumor was true. If the daughter you called embarrassing somehow outran your expectations. Mason muttered, You didn't need to show off like this. It's just money. I turned on him. Then why are you here, Mason? Because you and Dad lost the last family property to foreclosure? Or because you realized the embarrassing sister now owns more than both of you combined? He looked away. Valerie pressed her lips together, her hands twisting around her clutch. My father stepped closer, lowering his voice. Listen to me, Claire. You don't talk to me like that. No matter how much you own, I'm still your father. I met his eyes. And I'm still the daughter you abandoned when she couldn't pay her college rent. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Ethan, ever the professional, broke it gently. Mr. Carter, if you'd like to tour the second penthouse, I can arrange. No, I said firmly. This one's for people who earned their place. Dad's face hardened. You think this makes you better than us? Money doesn't buy respect. I stepped closer, my voice steady but low. Respect isn't bought, Dad. It's remembered when you're gone. And when people think of you, they won't remember kindness or loyalty. They'll remember the man who mocked his own daughter in front of strangers. His jaw twitched, the first crack in years of arrogance. You've become cold. I've become free, I said quietly. He opened his mouth again, but I turned away. You should go. I have a meeting. For once, he didn't argue. He turned on his heel, and they followed, Valerie clutching his arm, Mason trailing behind like a shadow. The elevator doors closed with a soft chime. Ethan glanced at me. You okay? I exhaled, slow and trembling. I'm fine. Just tired of ghosts. He gave a half smile. Then it's time to start living for the living. I walked back toward the window, the city stretching endlessly below. Somewhere out there, the girl I used to be was smiling, tired, scarred, but standing. The night breeze slipped through the balcony doors, carrying the scent of new beginnings. For years, my father's voice had been the one in my head telling me I'd never make it. Now his silence was louder. And for the first time, I liked the sound of it. A week later, I was back in the same lobby, the same marble floor, the same chandeliers. But this time, I wasn't walking in as the humiliated daughter. I was walking in as the new owner of Carter and Hall Developments, the real estate firm my father once built and lost. Fate's favorite trick, I guess, handing you the very stage you were once booed off. Ethan walked beside me, holding a leather folder filled with contracts. You're sure you want to buy it under your name? He asked quietly. This is the same company that pushed you out years ago. That's exactly why, I said, steady. I'm not buying the building, Ethan. I'm buying closure. When the boardroom doors opened, I saw him, my father, seated at the head of the table like he still ruled something. Valerie and Mason flanked him, their faces pale as the reality of the situation settled in. He looked up, his voice coated in disbelief. What are you doing here? I set the folder on the table, sliding it toward him. I'm here to finalize the acquisition. Your company's been bankrupt for 6 months. I'm the buyer. The air froze. Valerie's forked tongue failed her for once. You're joking? I met her eyes coolly. Do I look like I'm joking? Dad's laugh came sharp, desperate. You think I'd sell my name to you? Ethan stepped forward. Legally, Mr. Carter. The sale was completed this morning. Ms. Carter is now the majority shareholder and acting CEO.
The papers didn't lie.
His hands trembled as he scanned the signature page, my name, bold and clean, sitting right beneath his old company seal. Mason muttered, "You can't just take everything, Claire." I turned to him, calm but lethal. "You took everything first. You took my home, my chance, my dignity. I just took back what was mine all along." Dad slammed his palm on the table. "You've got no idea what it takes to run this business." "Oh, I do," I said, leaning in. "Because while you were drinking at country clubs, I was learning how to close million-dollar deals from scratch. You taught me failure, Dad. And I built an empire out of it." Valerie stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. You're punishing us for being successful." "Successful?" I echoed, almost laughing. "You spent my college fund on your wedding dress, Valerie. And Mason sold my car to pay off his gambling debt. Don't talk to me about success. You built your comfort on my humiliation." The silence was sharp. Even the clock on the wall seemed afraid to tick. My father rose slowly, his face red with fury. "You may have money, Claire, but you'll never have respect." I met his glare with a steady calm. Respect doesn't come from fear. It comes from how you treat people when they have nothing left to give. You failed that test long ago. He opened his mouth, but I continued, my voice low but firm. "I used to want your approval so badly. I thought success would make you proud. But now I realize your approval means nothing if it costs me my peace." Ethan placed a hand on my shoulder. "It's done," he said softly. "The deal's closed." I nodded, eyes still locked on my father. "Then let's make it official." I signed the final page, the pen sliding across the paper like a blade cutting through years of silence. When I set it down, I looked up at them, 3 faces frozen in disbelief. "From this day forward," I said clearly, "Carter and Hall is under new management. You're all welcome to stay as employees. But if you can't handle that, there's the door." Valerie gasped. "You can't mean that." I smiled faintly. "Oh, I do." Dad's voice cracked. "You think this is revenge?" I shook my head. "No, Dad. This is peace. You wanted me to crawl. I learned to fly instead." For a long moment, no one spoke. The weight of what I'd said hung in the air like a storm refusing to break. Then, slowly, my father's shoulder slumped. For the first time, he looked human. Not the tyrant who used to tower over me. Just a man who'd finally run out of control. "You've changed," he muttered. "I had to," I said quietly. "You made sure of it." He stared at the papers again, the reality settling like ash. Then, wordlessly, he gathered his coat, looked at me one last time, and walked out of the office he once ruled. Valerie followed, whispering curses under her breath. Mason lingered a moment longer before muttering, "Guess you won." I looked at him.
"No, Mason."
"I survived. There's a difference." When they were gone, I stood there for a while, alone in the room that used to be theirs. The walls still smelled like old money and arrogance, but now, beneath it, there was something new. Freedom. Ethan broke the silence. "You did it." I smiled faintly.
"No."
"She did." He frowned.
"Who?"
"The girl who walked out of this lobby 3 years ago with nothing but shame," I said. "She's the one who deserves the credit." He nodded, smiling quietly. I turned toward the window, the city blazing below. I'd spent years trying to prove I belonged in their world. Now, I'd built one they couldn't enter. And for the first time, I didn't need them to see it. 3 months later, I stood on the rooftop terrace of my penthouse, watching the city pulse below like a living thing. The skyline glittered against the night, each light a reminder of how far I'd come, and how far I'd fallen to get here. I wasn't the same woman who once trembled under her father's shadow. The noise of his judgment no longer echoed in my head. It had been replaced by something stronger, peace earned through pain. Ethan walked up beside me, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You've been out here a while," he said, setting one beside me. "Big day." I smiled faintly. You could say that. The final merger went through this morning. We just opened 3 new developments under my company's name. Your company, he said with pride. You've built something even your father couldn't dream of. I nodded, tracing the city's outline with my eyes. He tried to break me, but without that, I wouldn't have learned to rebuild. The sound of the elevator interrupted us. My heart tensed as the doors slid open, revealing my father. No arrogance this time, no entourage, no polished smirk. Just an older man holding a small envelope. Ethan stepped back quietly, sensing the weight of the moment. Dad walked toward me slowly, the city wind tugging at his coat. You've made quite the empire, Claire, he said, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. I saw the news this morning. You've become everything I said you couldn't. I didn't move. And you've become the man you promised you'd never be. He nodded. You're right. He handed me the envelope. It's the deed to the old Carter home, the one you grew up in. I sold everything else, but I kept that. It's yours now. I stared at it but didn't take it. Why give it to me now? Because it's the only thing I have left to give, he said quietly. You don't owe me forgiveness. But I needed you to know I was proud of you. I just didn't know how to say it. For the first time I saw it, the guilt in his eyes, raw and heavy. The same man who once mocked me for dreaming now looked smaller than the world he tried to control. I finally reached out and took the envelope. You hurt me, Dad, in ways that still burn. I know, he whispered, and I'll live with that. The silence between us wasn't angry anymore. It was honest. And that was something new. He turned to leave, then paused. I hope you find happiness, Claire. Not revenge. Real happiness. I nodded once. I already did. He left quietly, and for a moment, the sound of the elevator closing behind him felt like a door locking on the past. Ethan came closer. You okay? I let out a deep breath.
Yeah.
For the first time, I think I am. We stood there together, looking out over the glowing skyline. The wind carried the faint hum of the city, cars, laughter, life moving forward. It hit me then. Revenge hadn't been the victory. Survival had. Growth had. The ability to look my past in the face and not crumble, that was everything. I glanced down at the envelope one last time, then smiled and tucked it away.
Let's go, I said.
There's work to do. The future won't wait. As we walked inside, the city lights reflected off the glass walls, catching the faintest hint of my reflection, stronger, wiser, and completely free. Because the